This podcast is sponsored by.
It's not.
I wish.
All right, man. So tell me about Rainforest Cafe. You were down there for a mutual friend's bachelor party, right?
Yeah, so we took the conventional path of planning a bachelor party and we traveled from Michigan and all across the nations to end up in Galveston, Texas to eat some beautifully delicious food from Rainforest Cafe. The crazy thing about this specific location is not the food itself or the experience of thunderstorms, but they have a boat ride, which is pretty sweet. Crazy sounding.
I mean, since you told me about this, I've been dying to hear about it. So it's like a log flume thing. It's like whatever, Splash Mountain, right? Something like that.
No, it's actually Splash Mountain. Yeah, those like the logs, but it's more like a saucer. Like there's like 4 seats across from each other in a circle, and it spins. It's just like on like some sort of floating mechanism, and it's the slowest ride ever. And like, dude, let me see if I can show you a photo. Like some of the the animatronics were just like real derpy.
Nice. Trying not to show off any faces because we haven't like asked anybody if they want to be on our highly popular.
Oh no,
podcast.
I'm talking like the animatronics, like the robots.
Yeah. No, I know.
Oh, I have to ask them.
The animatronics, yeah. Did you have them sign a waiver? Yeah, let's see it. Oh, that's maybe slightly below what I expect. We actually, wife and I just went to a Rainforest Cafe for my first time ever here, like whatever, a month ago, for our nephew's birthday, and like,
that was your first time?
Yeah, man, first time ever, and I was a little underwhelmed, to be completely honest. It was a good time.
That seems like a you problem, though.
Yeah. It seems like managing my expectations sort of thing, right? Oh, wow. Was that there, too? For real?
Yeah.
You're not just showing me, like, Five Nights at Freddy's images now at this point.
Yeah, right. No. No, it's definitely creepy. The food sucks. You're paying overpriced. But to me, that's the experience. Where else do you get that?
The experience is just a crappy experience. That's why you go. Oh, man. So you guys had a good time, though? I mean, like, I know that there's like a story building up to why you guys even went, right? But you guys enjoyed it?
It was such a blast. I would do it over again in a heartbeat. But really, the story that leading up to why we did this was we just watched a YouTube video of someone doing this. So then we decided to do it. So
nice.
Yeah.
All right. What do you want to talk about? Star Wars?
Then we can talk about the history of Rainforest.
Not really feeling it today? We'll just cancel the podcast.
Yeah, what's Star Wars?
So we're talking today about Season 3, Episode 1, which Episode 2 is actually releasing today, but we haven't seen it yet, right? You didn't watch it?
I have not yet, no.
Okay. So let's talk Episode 1. All right, so right off the bat, you got to tell me honestly, did you think it was a flashback? Because I thought it was a flashback.
I honestly thought it was a flashback. I thought it was him, like his childhood of like him becoming a, Mandalorian and stuff. Which is I wonder why they made you think that. Like, because obviously that was intentional.
It had to be intentional. Had to be, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, there were a couple things that went into it. The first thing was, it seemed like there were a lot of Mandalorians. And the last we saw of the armor and, the whatever Children of the Watch, it was just her and Paz Vizsla on that whatever, I don't know, it's a space station or something. I can't exactly remember. From Book of Boba Fett. It was just the two of them. And that's when, Din admits that he took his helmet off and, they say he's not a Mandalorian anymore and all that. But here they are, there were like, I don't know, were there 30 or 40 or 50 Mandalorians all hanging out for this little weird baptism of the boy? I don't know. I was really surprised by it. But it also, I think, illustrates the amount of time that's passed and whether they're new recruits or like, I wonder if they're, just the old group that has now, after scattering, kind of come back together. I don't know. Thoughts?
Yeah, maybe they're like, in like a rebirth phase too. Like trying to rally the troops. One thing that I thought might be obvious, but I kind of was like, speaking of the helmet specifically, like, that whole religion, quote unquote, you can't really take your helmet off. It like occurred to me, I heard it through some other resource that like, it's a strategy to like not get counted. Like you can't really count, how many people are in your like,
right,
quote unquote religion
system.
Yeah, because you can't like uniquely identify them. So like it's kind of like a tactic to like feel bigger than you actually are. Yeah, well
they talked about it in the Mandalorian season 1, and I almost think it was the opposite idea. Just that Paz Vizsla says at one point when he's complaining about Mando doing this job for the Empire and stuff, and he says, we used to be known for our numbers or whatever. Our strength used to be in our numbers. Says now we leave one by one, whatever, so that nobody knows, that we're hiding here, basically. But yeah, like they hide the whole community, by only going out a little bit at a time. They never go out as a group. But so maybe that's an interesting bit of insight that like they're all like sort of regrouped or something together. Whether they're all like new recruits or I wonder if they draw from other Mandalorian clans, you know what I mean? If people get pulled into this because it's like, oh, well, I guess they're kind of like our Mandalorian clan and there's so few of us that we all just need to band together. I don't know. But anyway, I thought that was an interesting point for sure. I want to talk too about, there are several moments in that, that giant animal attack, which was crazy, by the way, the giant, like prehistoric alligator or whatever he was. People kept getting knocked into the water, right? I saw somebody commenting like, "You're Mandalorians, you got jetpacks. What is anybody doing on the ground?" You know what I mean? It's like, if there's one area this thing can't go, it's in the sky. Just go in the sky, shoot it from above, which is not a horrible point to make. But
they did do that though. They did have some of them.
Some of them did. Yeah. And they're like, they're shooting with like grappling hooks and stuff. And I'm like, what are you trying to do? That said,
yeah,
the thing
it did feel a little like you appear to be more powerful than what this battle is showing, or this fight is showing,
Yeah. So I don't know. It wasn't I don't know. It wasn't a scene that I like hated or anything. I always think about these little angles on it. But the guys, bunch of people kept falling in the water, right? And it had me thinking like, is there a drowning risk in the armor? You know what I mean? Because like, I don't know if I've heard about whether is it supposed to be light? Is it supposed to be heavy? Obviously it's a metal, but it seems like it'd be heavy. But like these guys fall into the water. We know, at least under certain circumstances, that it like seals up around your head. It's because I think I've seen them in space before like that, right?
Yeah.
I think in the Clone Wars and maybe even in Rebels you see that. I can't remember, but there's sort of a soft boundary around what can and can't work. Even when they put the kid's helmet on, did you hear the noise when they put the kid's helmet on? Mm-hmm. Do you remember? Do you know what it sounded like?
Not particularly at this moment.
Well, it reminded me of what it sounds like. You gotta make the noise. I can't make the noise. I can't make this noise. No, but look it up.
At least give it an attempt.
But it sounds like, no, I can't do it. It sounds like Darth Vader's helmet being put on for the first time in Revenge of the Sith. There's sort of like,
that was going to, honestly,
there's this little hiss, and everything. And it totally reminded me of that moment. And I was like, But it made like a sealing sound, like as though now his head is sealed in there and he's got air or something. And also maybe drowning isn't a real concern. I don't know. All right, but let's move on. That was just a weird little anecdote. What do we got
Topic
next?
of the day. Do Mandalorians drown?
Yeah. Right in. Send us messages. If you're one of our literally 4 fans, write in and give us your take on it.
This one's directly for you, Carl.
Yeah, that one's for Carl.
Moving on.
Yeah.
Okay, so you had one more little bulleted item.
Sure.
And it you should say it, but then I love how it says dash so cool.
Okay, yeah. So the it's funny. First of all, there's this sort of like, you're not really welcome here, but thanks for killing the beast sort of attitude going on when Din comes walking in after blasting it with his Naboo starfighter. But he comes walking in, and he ends up setting down this little artifact on her little table. And I love they've got this, like, it feels very like, I don't know, the way they do this sort of like ritual of like walking in, setting something down on the table, and they both sit down like monks. I love it. I think that's so cool. But he sets it down in front of her, and it's a fragment of stone that's got this like green, like, I mean, it looks like sugar candy or something. You know what I mean? Like crystallized sugar or something on it. But she says, let me look at what I wrote in my note here. She says, it's been completely crystallized by fusion rays, which, what is that? You know, but apparently that's something that had to do with the Empire and the siege of Mandalore and taking them down. And she says there that it's the mines are gone or whatever, they're ruined by the Empire. And of course, he claims that, like, all right, well, I'm gonna go like bathe in the waters, and if I come back and I can bring you proof, you have to let me back in. That's basically what he says. And
well, it's also not even just the mines are gone. Like, didn't she mention like it's like full of radiation or something crazy?
Yeah, well,
like,
it's poison. There's like something makes it like impossible to go see.
I like picture it like Chernobyl, right? Like this,
yeah, oh yeah,
you can't even breathe the air.
Yeah. So imagine somebody tells you, all right, the only way you're going to be able to be part of our club anymore is to go to Chernobyl and take a bath. It's like, all right, so I'll just go suffer devastating radiation and die before I can return. So anyway, obviously there's not a lot of faith from everybody this is going to work out, but Din is confident enough, so I'll root for him.
Yeah.
But I love the crystallizing. I thought that was like the coolest little thing. I was like, man, that's a prop I want to make someday. That little hunk of stone in the... Maybe.
I feel like it's too small of a scene for them to like merchandise, but it would be cool.
But anyway, I dug that, and again, I love the little relics and everything, and it's sort of like he has that to reiterate. I think progress has been made in his search here. He's trying to figure out how to do this thing, but like I think a lot of people looked at this episode as sort of like there are parts of it that are a little pointless because if you've watched the Book of Boba Fett, we already knew that this was his goal. He already went through his judgment of the armor and everything, and we know that he has to go try and do this if he's going to be a Mandalorian, in her eyes anymore. So anyway, it felt like a little bit of a throw off, but it was a good piece to show like, okay, well, he's made progress. He's been investigating. He's trying to figure out how to get there, what to do, But anyway, then the next point that I want to talk about, and I don't know, unless you want to talk about something else, we see... What? Do you remember?
Well, I maybe you're jumping around, but
no,
I was going to mention
ahead.
the transportation from where they were fighting the thing to, I'm assuming, where you're about to take it.
Well, just go.
Being very ambiguous for a very dumb thing. I don't know. Bring it up.
All right. Just tell me what you want to talk about.
So when they're going through hyperspace, that I don't know if you like caught this, but like it was such a beautiful scene of like, Grogu with the Purgles, yeah. And it was just like a very, I don't know, I thought it was a very cool moment in general, but specifically it kind of tied in a lot of these characters from the Rebels, like Ahsoka, Ezra, I think even maybe Thrawn. But I just thought that was a cool, and it also probably alludes a bit to like the Ahsoka show. Yeah. Like coming down later this year.
I may end up saying this every episode of the show, but they do a really good job of sort of like cross promoting all these other things that they're doing, right? And so there's been a lot of talk that Thrawn is going to be the goal of this Ahsoka series, or at least the early season of it. I don't know how much of it there's going to be. But for those, again, spoiler alert, for those who haven't seen Rebels, and you should see Rebels, but don't listen.
Everyone dies.
Well, some people do. Anyway, that's long enough. At the end of Rebels, Ezra sort of sacrificed himself. Ezra is the young, Jedi Padawan. And he and Thrawn, trapped in a ship, get, sent off to, who knows where, with the Purgils. And Purgils are these space whales that can travel at hyperspeed, naturally. And I think the lore is that they're actually what inspired people to learn to do it themselves in ships and everything. But very interesting. And I think that what you said was right on, that probably this is I'm hoping that this is introducing these things so that when it comes around, these Rebels characters will reappear and everything. And, at the end of the Rebel series, Sabine Wren was going off to find Ezra. So, yeah. I think there's a good chance. But if nothing else, I think it's almost certainly going to lean into the story with Ahsoka and trying to track down Thrawn. I thought that was super cool. And that was exactly what I wanted to talk about. And I thought you might have some interesting thoughts about that, because I know you were a big fan of the animated stuff too. But I love that. That's a good tie-in.
Thank you.
All right, let's talk about what we got next. Oh, dude, Navarro. It's like you can barely recognize the place, right?
Oh yeah, it's it's like HGTV restoration hardware.
Yeah. Move that whatever Star Destroyer, and there's the town left behind.
That's a great spin-off idea, by the way.
Yeah. There you go. All right, Disney, I want to cut. But anyway, they the look of the town is amazing. It's all of a sudden, there's a little bit of color to it, and there's plants, and there's, obviously some development and everything. There are people wandering around. It's become this trade hub. And it feels like this happened too fast to be realistic, but, they're trying to show time is moving. And so I'm sure that that's part of it. There's the IG-88 statue there. And I was a big fan of the moment where he says to Grogu, he's like, "Hey, do you remember your friend?" or whatever, And it
cute.
almost brought a tear to my eye. I was like, because he's sort of a hero, and it's also really cool as a symbol of Din's growth. You know what I mean? That he looks at him and he's got fond memories, amazingly, of a droid after what I assume is a lifetime of not trusting them and kind of just hating on him. So I thought that was really cool. That moment with what we later find out isn't entirely a statue. Any thoughts about that?
Not particularly. I was going to make a stupid comment. That's how I talk to my dog. Oh, do you remember?
Yeah. Hey,
but
buddy,
I'm sure that's
look.
just what people...
Yeah.
My dog's just my kid right now, so I'm probably just talking to him like a kid.
Yeah. Well, I think everybody's got a little voice. I talk to my dog a little that way. But yeah, no, I thought it was really sweet. Just a moment that softens him a little bit as a character, and also it feels like, oh man, he's growing up. He himself, he's growing to not, be so discriminatory, I guess.
No, but I also thought the statue itself was a cool shot, because rarely do we see in Star Wars a droid or some sort of mechanical thing be recognized of high virtue. So that was special.
That's a topic I want to do a whole video on sometime, or maybe a series on how droids are depicted in. And I know that a lot of people talked about this kind of thing, but how they're depicted in Star Wars is sort of ambiguous, because they both are and aren't just machines, you know what I mean? And R2-D2 is he's got a personality, and he's got memory, and he's got friends and whatever, you know what I mean? He seems emotional at times and everything. It's so there's a sort of vagueness to it that does this make everyone horrible for essentially enslaving all these robots? You know what I mean? Because when they're just machines, who cares? You know what I mean? I have a copier machine. I would say I own it. You know what I mean? It's but if I had a copier machine that talked to me and walked around and had its own personality. And, you know what I mean? Like, it's like, does that thing just, I mean, can something with a personality be you know, owned, whatever? Topic for a different day, but it's an interesting one that I'd love to dig into at some point. Another interesting thing that is a good example of the change that's happened in Navarro was Grief Karga, right? Did you notice how big his robes were?
They were slightly smaller than the robes that I wear.
Okay. Yeah.
No, they were pretty big. But, I mean, also, the part that I thought was cool, which, fast forwarding a bit, when I forget the characters' names, but I'm hoping you remember, but the two pirates.
Oh, my gosh. I'll find it. I don't remember.
But I'm hoping now that we see, what's his name from, is it Rebels? He was also...
Hondo.
Gosh.
Yeah, Hondo.
Yeah, I was going to say...
Hondo Ohnaka.
Yeah, Hondo. Yeah, it'd be cool to see him in IRL. But,
yeah, man. Well...
What was I going to say? Oh.
Go ahead.
No, but I was saying I'm tying it back to the robes, I promise. So, like, the robes, to me, gave off this kind of, like, I'm obviously more powerful, I'm higher up, like, I'm like a king, if you will, like, a little bit fancier.
Yeah.
Which you could tell in conversation with the pirates that they were like, oh, you've lost your way or whatever, like, you're, you know, whatever. And then that whole scene, that standoff, it just really, he just, like, went for it. So I thought that was, like, a cool, like, you know.
Yeah.
That was it. Yeah. Yeah,
no, I love that. I first of all, it is kind of cool to see the Grief Karga isn't just like a bureaucrat now. You know what I mean? He's not just like a desk jockey. Like he really is. Like he has a moment where he's like, oh yeah, you think so? Like test me, you know, whatever. And he throws back his robe, very Western style. Always love that, the like showdown thing. And rather than shoot him right in his stupid face, he shoots his hand, so he's not even a killer at that point. But and like I agree, it was interesting, and I feel like there's a whole. I want to get into a little bit, real quick, just how. I mean, the term I wrote down originally was "big for his britches" that he's become. You know what I mean? That like all of a sudden he's like, "Well, I'm high magistrate now," right? You mentioned he's like sort of kingly. It's like I run this town now and whatever. When before, I mean, maybe this is just the way Grief Karga was before all this, you know. But when he was, you know, working with the guild and everything, like Moff Gideon called him disgraced magistrate, whatever in the first season. You know, Grief Karga was a disgraced magistrate. Now, why was he disgraced? We never heard the history behind that. You know, we know that like all of them had sort of like secrets that, you know, he revealed. So maybe this is something that Grief Karga has kind of kept under his hat a little bit, but. I thought it was interesting to see this sort of like weird, like bougie side of him a little bit. And he's got the little robots following him around, holding his cape. It felt like a little much to me, but again, they're making a point, and I think it's the opulence of the city and everything, and all this is reflected in the leader of the city now. And anyway, but all that is to say. He in talking with the pirates and everything, they do sort of like they imply a history, right? They say that like your share of our boss's treasure bought this place or something like that, which makes me think at some point he had dealings with these guys, and I assume it was like maybe even before, you know, he knew Din and Grogu and Cara Dune and everybody. Thoughts?
I'd actually, it's always interesting. This is why I love doing this podcast is like, I feel like you like overanalyze every little scene.
Well, we have different insights. Yeah.
Yeah. I did not pick up on, my head did not go there when I watched that scene. It kind of stopped at, but no, that's really fascinating. I hope we get to learn more about his past. I think he obviously is, you know, we see him enough to where we feel like we somewhat deserve it. But you did name drop someone, which Cara Dune. And they did kind of write her off in a positive manner.
Yeah. Well, they did exactly what we sort of predicted they would do, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, they
But I think it's typical for them to be like, oh, she died in like some battle or whatever.
Yeah, well,
so it was kind of cool that she's still alive.
They could have written her off as dead. I think that would have been a real bummer. And and I mean, I told you before in our last little video, I don't expect that they'll save her character, they'll bring her back necessarily, but I like that the door is always open. You know, that maybe things will come together.
Like CGI her character.
No, I don't think that that'll be any better. But I do think I just watched a TikTok the other day, and she still loves the character. Like I saw, it was from some con she had done, and she was super excited to see somebody in the Cara Dune costume at like a con, and it was just like, man, she still loves the character. Like her response wasn't like, ugh, that's the past, and I'm never doing that again. Like I'm kind of like, man, maybe there's room for some reconciliation. Maybe there's room. I'm just hoping. That's all. It's probably not going to happen. But okay. Yeah, Cara Dune, man, that was a heck of a thing. I wanted to mention, too, there's a moment with Grief Karga that really threw me. It's the first time that he's seen the two of them after, like, a break, and he's not been like, oh, the baby, And I was like, why is he not interested? It might just be now that he's super self-involved. Did you notice that, too, or is that just me?
Wait, did he still called Grogu by the baby?
No, I'm sorry.
What you're saying?
No, what I'm saying is that like he didn't even acknowledge Grogu until Din said something about him, or something.
Yeah,
but it was like when he sees them the first time that he's planning to betray them, and they land on the planet and they come out on the blurgs and everything. He goes, "Where's the little one?" And he's all excited to see the baby and whatever. Now that might have been all fake. He was trying to betray the guy. But then, like later on, he's like, "Oh, I think he remembers me." Or no, maybe that's Peli Moto. Sorry, that's a different character that did that. But like, he's interested. He's interested in that baby every time he sees him, and this is the first time that he's kind of just like, not said anything about him until he calls him like, "You're still running around with a little creature." Like that's the first time he acknowledges him. It just felt weird, and I don't know if it was a writing oversight or if it was cut for time or what. But it just felt odd to me that they didn't have a moment there.
Well, again, if we all have learned from Star Wars past experiences, like that is a valid output. I mean, remember JJ forgetting to write in Chewbacca going over to Leia,
that is sort of famously people had a problem with in whatever episode
Force
7
Awakens.
After again, spoiler alert, Han Solo dies, and Chewie comes back, and Leia and Chewie don't have a moment together. Like Chewie just goes wandering off.
They walk by each other. No. It was even worse. They walked by each other.
Well, and Rey comes up, and she and Leia have like a moment, and it's like, what? Chewie, you're like, whatever, 20, 30 year friend. You know what I mean? Just lost his best friend. You just lost your like whatever ex-husband. Both of you still loved this guy. It's like it did feel silly.
Yeah,
that's a different.
So that could be.
Thing.
No, but I bring that up
possible.
To just say, like, they maybe could have forgot. But also, I think that, he was kind of getting down to business. So he was offering him, like, property and a job and all this stuff. So, maybe there's an ulterior motive there.
He's trying to schmooze him a little bit. Yeah, absolutely. I do think you said, and I mentioned this too, he seems like he's really about his job now. And it's been a little bit like I said, like he's puffing his chest out, being like, "Look at how well we're doing here," and I'm high magistrate, not grand magistrate. But I'm wandering around, like with my little, the opulent robes and my little robots and stuff. It seemed a little over the top. But again, sometimes you have to be to really drive the point home. But it might just be that he's gotten to a point where he's self-interested, or he's just kind of like he's got bigger things on his mind. He's trying to recruit people. This is his whole thing now. So it's an interesting thought.
One thing I know we're kind of running up on time, but one thing I wanted to address was eventually Mando and Grogu go meet Bo-Katan, and the thing. So like they talk, they whatever chit chat. You can get into the specifics if you want, but the thing that stood out to me was her kind of demeanor that whole time, and then the demeanor like when Mando like goes off to like now he's going off to like Mandalore, and it kind of felt like she wants him to go and die so that she can go pick up the lightsaber, the dark saber. I don't know. That was kind of the demeanor I got from her. It just felt like a different type of Bo.
That is really interesting.
Stuff.
That thought didn't cross my mind at all. That's very interesting. It's an interesting theory. Well, I still think we need to go back. We need to talk about the Enzellans, because I know that you were a big fan and I was a big fan. But at this point, let's talk about this moment.
Oh yeah. They're so cute, by the way.
Yeah, but so you're right. He walks in there and like she's clearly got a chip on her shoulder. She's kind of ticked off, right? Because first of all, the Darksaber going to Din was an accident. Din wasn't trying to do it. He didn't want it, but it doesn't make it any less like a problem. It's a barrier for her. Between her and leadership means she's going to retake Mandalore and try to whatever resettle it. Who knows? But the attitude that I got from her was this sort of like resentment of the power that the Darksaber had. She basically said like, when I didn't come back with the Darksaber, those guys just wandered off and became mercenaries again. And like she obviously hates that. She obviously hates that he has it. So it's like that's not a big leap to think that she kind of hates him right now. But yeah, I thought it was interesting. And the last thing that she says as he walks away, she's like, goodbye, Din Djarin, or whatever. And it's sort of like I can't quite pick out what she's doing. Like if she's like hopeful that he'll go and be successful, or what. But it was funny that you said that like maybe she wants him to go off and die so she can track down the Darksaber and move on with her plans. It's an interesting thought.
Yeah, it's hard to know where she stands right now in terms of who she's siding with. So I think that obviously will definitely unfold through the rest of the season.
Yeah. All right, well, real quick, let's hit the Anzellan thing before we sign off. What was your favorite moment in that scene?
Well, the whole scene was hilarious, but like, I just loved how, like, they're trying to talk with them because they can kind of speak English, right? Like, but it's like hard to, totally make sense of what they're saying. But I just love the whole interaction of like, Grief like translating what they're saying, and like Mando's like, I know,
I got it. I love that.
And he kept like, it was also just funny because you have this tiny door that they come out of, and then like the next scene you like see Mando inside, and then like he's this big dude sitting down with these little tiny things trying to fix IG-88, and
I love it. Yeah,
it was just so quirky and funny, and then like you can see like the little hole cut out in the wall where the door is, and then Grief just kind of bending over. Like he has to bend over every time he speaks because he can't. It's so small. It's like
that scene cracked me up. And I love that, like you said, the like calling back and forth and like, yeah, I got it. Like one time he's like, "Do you speak Huttese?" Like he's trying to figure it out. And so Grief jumps in and sort of like tries to translate. And then like obviously from then on he's like, "It's all right. I can understand this now."
What's the main character in? He was Anzellian, but he was the main character that was fixing C-3PO.
Babu Frick.
Yeah, I love that name.
Incidentally, probably my wife's favorite Star Wars character. But she had a little chuckle over there. She loves Babu Frick. Hey. Yeah, no, they were like really fun, and honestly, probably a pretty smart tie-in to pull in those guys who were like droid guys, or at least, Babu Frick was, and trying to connect, the sequel trilogy and everything, always trying to stretch this web out and make everything one, consistent story is smart. I think my favorite part, and again, this is maybe beating a dead horse at this point, was these like, the droid's like, nope, whatever, it's broken, And he's like, yeah, but this one is my friend. He's like, well, get a new droid. He's just trying to tell him.
No, I thought,
it's not your friend anymore.
Get new friend?
Yeah. He's like,
get new friend or something?
He's like, it's not your friend anymore. Oh, crack me up.
Yeah.
But yeah, I love the soft moment there. The Din's like, I need this one. This one's special, and like, it's like, oh.
Yeah.
But of course,
he's got a huge heart now.
Yeah, well, he needs it to help him, like, do the next piece of his puzzle. So like that's part of it, it's not just
true
only other kindness of his heart. He didn't come back and try to do this, right after the first season. He came back now because he needs a droid to go with him. But still, I thought it was a nice moment. Anyway, I feel like there's a lot more we could unpack, but we really need to cut this short. So I'm really excited for the second episode, and I can't wait. I don't know.
Yeah, I hear the second episode's actually like even better than the first.
All right.
So
Awesome. All right, well,
All right.
we'll see you next time.
On pew pew time.